Hello fiber friends, welcome to the Jilly and Eve channel. I'm Evie, I love spinning yarn. We're going to talk about spinning and history and magpie stuff today. What's magpie stuff? It's shiny things. I like shiny things. I like stuff that sparkles. We're talking about sparkly things today because we're talking about spinning and glass. I don't know if you have seen, but there are some absolutely stunning glass tipped spindles that are just gorgeous. I have two and I want to show them to you, but I also got distracted because I do. And this is where the magpie stuff comes in, because glass is beautiful. But I started to wonder, as I always do, were there historical cases or evidence of spinners using glass whorls? Now, to clarify, if you're unfamiliar with these terms, whorl is usually a disc, but sometimes it's built into the spindle itself. And basically, it is giving mass to the stick so that as it gets twisted, as you flick it and it starts to spin around, it will have momentum to keep going. Do we have evidence of glass spindle whorls? We do, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But first, let me show off these two spindles because they are absolutely beautiful. And then we'll get to the history stuff. Here are my two glass spindles. This one is MingoAsho and this one is Stephen Willette. They're just stunning. I couldn't pick a favorite, really, truly. I've been spinning with both of them. They're such fun spins. So let me show you what these look like. I'm using a supported spinning method for these. And the MingoAsho came with this little glass dish. It's a heart. So pretty, and it keeps the spindle where it's supposed to be while I spin. I feel so graceful when I spin with supported spindles. If you're curious about the technique I'm using, I am spinning from the fold. So I have one lock of wool and I'm folding it over my finger and then using the tip of that to draft from. And it makes a very easy and smooth draft because I don't want something very complicated, because one hand is managing the draft and the spindle, and that gets complicated. And while I do like magpie stuff, I like to get yarn in the end. Ultimately, that's the goal. So it needs to be something achievable. Now, a lot of people as beginners, and I had this question on my last podcast and I talked about this, a lot of people as beginners will watch someone do the thing where they keep the spindle going while they're drafting and say, oh my goodness, what magic is that? Well, it's practice. That's the magic, is practice. So what I usually would suggest as a quick tip for beginners wanting to spin like this is that you give it some twist and don't worry about drafting. Just let that twist build up, and then you can hold on to it in your hand and keep it steady and then do the drafting and let your twist move along the yarn that way. And then the twist will spread out, and if you feel like you need a little more, you can give it another flick to add some twist and then wind it on. So it's kind of like park and draft, if you're familiar with that method when you are drop spindle spinning, where you will get it going and then just hold it in your lap while you draft out the yarn so that you don't have a spinning spindle flying around. It's a lot to keep track of. So you can just add some twist and then draft out your fibers. And you don't have to have everything going at once. But for those of you curious about how I am having everything going at once, I'm supporting it kind of inside my hand. So it's just going around inside there. And I'm providing the tension on the yarn with my thumb and forefinger so that the spindle isn't inhibited from spinning. And I kind of open and close a little bit, and that lets the twist kind of keep moving so it doesn't just all bog up in that little space between the spindle and where I'm pinching. I feel, I don't know, like it's a dance with me and the spindle and the fiber. Let's talk about other magpie stuff. I was in a chat on my Discord and someone posted a picture from the British Museum of what the British Museum said was possibly a spindle whorl or possibly a bead. They weren't certain which it was. And this is a really common thing because spindle whorls look very much like beads. Whorls are separate and they slide off, and they're made of a lot of different materials throughout history. We see bone, stone like amber, we see soapstone, we see probably wood, but wood degrades, so we have sort of a survivor bias issue with wood, knowing how much people were using wooden whorls. The other kinds of materials that we see also include glass. Yes, glass. I went on a search and I found that there were quite a few 1st through 4th century Roman spindle whorls at the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So I was able to get pictures of spindle whorls that look almost exactly the same. So let's take a look. I mean, this is like a twin sitting at the Met. They're an ocean apart, but they look like twins. So if you go check out that British Museum link and look at these spindle whorls, it's really amazing how similar they look. And so I was able to look at the British Museum one. You can get a side view. The Met doesn't have a side view. I'm not trying to shade the museums. I sound very critical right now. I mean, I am a little bit. I kind of think that the images of the items should be able to be shared. That's my opinion. But I'm really glad that I have any access at all to these things, because without the online pictures, like, I would have nothing to go from. So anyway, on the British Museum one, you can see the side view and you can see how it's kind of pinched in on the where you can see that the lines kind of pucker together. It sort of looks like maybe someone took, like when the glass was being formed, you know, some kind of a pincher and pinched it together. So that started making me think, wait a second, this looks like an object that I've seen in modern day that's very similar, that I have access to, that I could try this out as a spindle whorl and see how it spins. So I'm about to get there. Bear with me. We've got another one to look at just because it's so pretty, and we're doing magpie things today. Here's another one. This one is 1st to 2nd century. It's also Roman and it's also glass, and it says it's translucent cobalt blue. Look at this one. It's swirly. It's stunning. This one is also 1st through 2nd century CE, sometime around there. It's Roman. And again, we have this translucent cobalt blue. So the next question is, how were these ancient Roman spindle whorls possibly being used? And do we have something similar that we could play around with today? Well, friends, I started thinking that these looked a lot like dresser drawer pulls. You know, like the fancy dresser drawer pulls? That's what they reminded me of. I took a trip to the hardware store. Sadly, my trip was unsuccessful, but never fear, the internet is here. So I found a place online where I could get some dresser drawer pulls, and I did. All right, so this was the one that got me thinking. This one did come from a maker on Etsy, and the cool thing about this one is that it did come with a spindle stick. And so I like that this one has a spindle stick that it fits on, because that makes spinning that much easier. If you don't have a spindle stick like this or access to one, a dowel rod will work. So I got some dowel rods. These you can find at the craft section of the craft store, the craft or the hobby section at the hardware store. If you have a hardware store that has these kinds of dresser pulls, you can have a shopping trip and get yourself a historic replica of Spindle for spinning. The only thing about the dowel is that you need to secure the Whorl onto the dowel because it slides around and you can't have it sliding around. So I have a solution to that as well. If you can find these little tiny little rubber gasket things, that will work as well. So you can stick it on there, and then you can shove the Whorl on it, and it'll kind of hold it on there. Then suddenly you've got a spindle that has a glass Whorl. Oh my goodness, look at what we're doing here. I love DIY spinning. The only thing is that it's kind of traveling all over because it doesn't have a tip. So what can we do about making a tip? Stick it in a pencil sharpener and you'll get a point on there, and then you'll be able to use it like a supported spindle. Instead of like this where it's going in circles, it feels like an egg beater. We invented an egg beater. Oh dear. I liked that this had the blue. It sort of harkened back to the designs on the ancient Roman ones. And then this one has sort of like the glass dripped on it and designed on it. Like it looks like frosting. It's so pretty. I think these might still work. So I am going to take them apart. The big one does fit on this stick that I have, but I do feel like this is really too heavy to use suspended. There we go. Look at that. What about these smaller ones? They're actually a better fit for my sticks. So I am going to just get real colorful here with my little gaskets and kind of squish these in between two gaskets so that I can test each one out and see how they spin. I'm getting more and more excited as I go. Oh my goodness, look at these. I have a goth spindle now. I am absolutely going to stain this dowel rod with unicorn spit, and it's gonna be purple with sparkles, and it has a black Whorl on it, and I am so thrilled right now. I cannot contain my joy. These are just really cool. Check that out. Look at that. It just looks so cool. One of the things we know is that for the most part, lots of people in the past were using distaffs to spin. And we do have images from ancient Greece and ancient Rome that are in frescoes and on pottery, things that have survived to show us how people may possibly have been spinning at that time. Distaffs were absolutely used. So I'm gonna need a distaff. Fortunately, I have some distaffs. We're good there. It's called a ring distaff because it goes on your hand like a ring and you hold it in your hand. And a lot of people think of a distaff as something like that over there attached to the spinning wheel, or something that you would stick in your belt. But ring distaffs are very historical and very ancient, and we definitely have examples of those. And this one I do sell in my shop. So, and it's cute because when you fill it full of wool and it has this little bird, it's like a little bird sitting in a nest. And I am sure that ancient people thought of that when they made these little bird distaffs. They were like, oh, it's a little bird in a nest. And that is just the most adorable thing ever. It's so cute, and it just goes to show that people have always been people, and we like cute things, and we like pretty things. Magpie things. All right, let's put some wool on this. You could do this if you had locks of wool. You could just lay them out and roll them up like so. And then my little bird is sitting in his nest. It's so cute. I like to just make my own leader. I'm literally right now holding my hands in almost exactly the same way that they do on the picture. on the fresco, I think. It's just like really natural. Like I just kind of went into that position with this. And usually I don't like having my arms way up in the air because that's tiring. You wouldn't be spinning like that all day long, even if you're used to it. Like, people don't do things on purpose to be tiring. If it's, you know, people are efficient. They find efficient ways to do things, and yet here I am. Here I am. So I think that the wobble is happening because I don't have a hook or something on here. So the yarn is coming from the edge, and so it's flipping around this sort of blunted tip. And I think if this was tapered, I wouldn't have that problem so much. But look, we're making yarn. It's working. This is very cool. I think this is worth carving a little hook into the top of this dowel rod. Yeah, see, I'm not loving how this is coming off the distaff right now. I got this slub here, I've got to sort that out. But I think with a little practice and tweaking a few things here and there, I think this works. With this little ceramic whorl, I'm getting good twists that I need. Basically, I'm kind of doing what I do with the supported spindle, just on a larger scale. So I'm giving it that flick, and then I'm able to control the yarn while it keeps adding twist. And like I said, if there was a hook on it, even just a carved hook, kind of like a crochet hook looking thing on the end of this, I think it would help it to guide the yarn so that it was closer to that center of rotation, so it's not going to flip around and cause that vibration. This is a lot of fun, and I want to try some of the other Whorls. So even though it's only going for a short spin, and then it's like done, it's a lot of twist in that short spin, and it's caught on my dress. How many spinners throughout time do you think have caught their spindles on their dresses or their hair in their yarn? I have. I want to try the one that has a little bit more of a flat shape as opposed to the very rounded bead shape. I wonder sometimes, is the shape really for function, or was it like a stylistic choice? Was there spindle whorl fashion? Was that a thing? We see it being a thing right now with the MingoAsho and the Stephen Willette spindles. Like, those are really trendy right now, and a lot of people want them because they're beautiful. And I wonder, and I imagine, if, you know, beautiful spindles, isn't that something easy to transport? So if you're doing some business deal or trade or something far away, might you come home with a cool looking spindle whorl for your sweetheart? I like to make up little romantic stories in my head about these things. But look at this, we made a bunch of yarn. Isn't that cool? And it's beautiful. So in the Viking Age, Norse people were also working with glass. There's another shop on Etsy, Glass Bead, who does this kind of lampwork glass, and it's really beautiful. And I have 2 spindle whorls from them. These I am using supported because they are beautiful, and I just don't want to drop them and chip them. They have these little bumps. There's a piece that was found on an island that is dated to the Viking Age, and it has little bumps like that. It's one of those game pieces, and so these have those little bumps and the swirly glass, and they're so beautiful. So here is a little demo of this silk spin. It's so pretty. I've been working on this silk for a while. I always have it handy. I love spinning and magpie stuff apparently. And glass is a really cool material to use for spinning, and ceramic, sort of glass adjacent, best we can do. I think this is a really cool experiment, and I love DIY equipment. I love finding ways to make spinning affordable and accessible. And comment of the day. Tell me which of these spindles is your favorite. I would love to know. So if you're interested in historic spinning, this might be a good way to start. And if you're already a spinner and you want to explore this, have fun. And I will see you in the next one. Happy spinning, fiber friends.